Hi friends, it's Kelly. Happy International Scrapbook Day. I've used two of Paige's cut files, the Sketch and Stitch Geometric Butterfly and the Geometric Butterfly regular cut file to create Challenge 6, which is stitching. This cut file I used to cut out the paper inside my stitching, and then I actually used the same file to make a map, a color map, to use while I was designing. So here's my layout, and I've stitched embellishments, the background, and a border. Of course, you don't have to do all three. Choose your favorite. So with this Sketch and Stitch cut file, it's actually very easy to see where you need to stitch. So I didn't do the sketch part, but you certainly could if you want. And I used my sanding block just to take down any little bits of paper that pop up from the cutting process. I pulled out a few papers but stuck with paper 6 from the Splendid collection and matched all my threads to each of those squares. The other paper I used was Pretty Paper 13, and that pretty much did my whole layout. And so I've used the same cut file to make my color map in the Silhouette Design Studio, assigning a color to each section. Then I transferred that information onto my background, so it kind of is going to work like one of those old paint by numbers we used to do as kids. So I'm using 6 strands of DMC floss on a size 22 needle, and I'm going to poke the holes a little more clear so you can see them in the video, hopefully. Just going to go around and push my pin through and show you a couple of chain stitches. So I have a knot at the end of my thread, and I pull it through the first hole and go down through the next hole. That's your first stitch. Now you would double it up if you weren't coming back to the same place, but I'm going to double it up at the end. So I'm going to go in the next hole, under that first stitch, and back down through the hole I came from. And one more in the next hole, under the previous stitch, and back down through the hole I came from. And that's your chain stitch. Easy breezy. So I'll carry on and stitch the whole layout. Here are the colors that I've used if you're interested and want to use the same. So I started with yellow, added the pinks, added the greens, added the blues, added the mauve, and added the orange, and finally the aqua. Ta-da! Wouldn't it be fun if it went that fast? Anyways, let's do some embellishing. I'm going to show you how I go about stitching the ephemera. I choose my ephemera. In this case, it's one of the yellow die cuts from the collection, and I'm gluing it onto some yellow cardstock. This is going to allow me to make holes all the way around the edge for my stitching, and when I trim off the yellow cardstock, my stitching will look like it's around the edge of the petals. If I didn't do this and tried to make holes really close to the edge, chances are I'd rip through when I was sewing, and then you have to involve some glue, and that's no fun at all. So I'm going to do the exact same stitch here, the chain stitch, same size needle, 6 strands of DMC floss, and I'll just fast forward to the end because I've already shown you the chain stitch. So I've actually used a couple other stitches on the petals, and that involved the French knots and the back stitch, and I'm going to link a tutorial, stitching tutorial that Paige did that's just really awesome, and that's how I learned, so that'll be in my description box. So here I go with my fussy cutting scissors, cutting as close to my stitching I can without actually cutting into the stitching. And it's a little wider on the top than on the bottom, so I'd recommend doing your fussy cutting from the top. You can do a little tidying up on the back too, and if you do cut into the thread, just get out your glue and make sure it doesn't ravel or come undone for you. There we go. So 1 flower down and 2 to go. So I started piecing together the butterfly off camera, and I'll add a few on camera just so you can see that the color map was really helpful. It helps you plan your paper pieces, so when you're cutting it out on your Cameo, you can cut them out all at the same time. And I popped each piece up with 3D foam just to give it a little more dimension and let it stand above the stitching. And that's my background in a nutshell. If you're wondering about how long it took to stitch, I would say 3 full days, but it's worth it. I love the DMC floss, the colors, and working with bright, beautiful Splendid after our long weekend just makes me so happy. So I pulled out a few other pieces from the collection, and we'll see those as we go along. This is the photo I used. I'm a happy little 4-year-old in my little frock. Of course, it's black and white because, I'm pretty old. So I did some fussy cutting, and like a bad magician, I sawed my body in half because I really only want to use the top. And once I had it the size I wanted, I taped that to some white AC cardstock, just a scrap, and I'm going to tape that on and fussy cut around that. You could do it all at the same time, but I think I got a cleaner cut. I did a couple. I think I got a cleaner cut doing them individually, putting them together, and trimming them this way. Didn't take very long at all. So I'm going to use because it's black and white, I am going to use my alcohol ink markers, and I'm going to make my dress blue, and it took a couple of layers. It dries so fast. You can go over it a few times or get the depth, the color that you're looking for. I didn't want it to look like a colored photo. I still wanted it to be more like a tinted black and white photo. When I was little, I had blonde hair. Now I have to go to the hairdresser and spend loads of money to keep it that way. But that's another layout entirely. So yeah, just layer up your color and make it as dark as you want, or maybe you'll even start with a colored photo. That might be really cute too. I thought a tinted black and white really helped all the colors in the design stand out even more. And so I'm making myself into a butterfly, and I'm going to layer up my stitched embellishments and the chipboard, and that sticker was just perfect because it's a little smaller than the chipboard item. And then there's my little antennas. So there's lots of fun to come on Paige's Happy Scrappy Place today. There's challenges at the top of every hour, and a free cut file that Paige has designed exclusively for the International Scrapbook Day. And those come up at every half hour and will be hanging around till 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time. To enter any of the challenges, just post your gorgeous layout, cards, mini albums, whatever you're making under the comments section of that challenge. And you have until Saturday, May 14th to do that. Then Paige will be drawing the winners and announcing them on May 16th. And good luck to everyone, and thanks so much for being here. So I'm just finishing up my butterfly body collage. I use 3D foam tape to pop up some items. Some items were glued directly to the layout with extra sticky double-sided tape. And honestly, sometimes it is hard to adhere items to stitching, I have found. So I often will add some tacky glue to my foam tape and just hold it till it dries. if that's a concern for you. I never really had many things fall off my layouts, and if they do, I just adhere them back on. So almost finished up my body, and I do make some holes for stitching to add my antennas, which were buttons from the 12 by 12 chipboard, and I did a back stitch and in gold thread. I had drawn them on with a pencil, but then I decided the pencil marks weren't quite in the right place, so I just went ahead and made holes with a pin on a foam mat and glued the buttons on top of that. Now at the very end of my layout, unfortunately, I thought my camera was on, but it wasn't, so I apologize for that. But I did add a border at the bottom of my layout. It just looked a little empty down there. I used a border punch to scallop the yellow piece in the center of my border, and then I stitched that as well with my gold thread. And so challenge 6, stitching. Think about stitching borders. Use one of Paige's sketch and stitch files if you have an electronic cutting machine. Stitch an embellishment, make a card, a mini, a layout. I can't wait to see what you all got going on and cheer you on. So thanks again for joining me here. Enjoy the rest of the celebration, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Bye for now.